Hi everyone, it's Diane with SewBatik, and today we are going to talk about the Roscoe blouse and dress pattern by True Bias. And I'm going to have to tell you, we're at a new backdrop. Welcome to my home once more. We're sitting in Bruce's favorite chair because it is comfortable, and I'm hoping I have better acoustics in this room. So bear with me here. But what do you think about the snow out there? We are in eastern North Dakota and it has snowed. The snow is here. It is winter. And but it's a beautiful day out there today. It's actually going to be a little blue sky, which will be very nice. I think we're getting snow tomorrow yet again. But welcome to our winter. So let's get to the topic of the day, and it is the Roscoe blouse and dress pattern. First and foremost, I'm wearing one and I love it. I truly, truly love it. So let's talk about the pattern. I'm not going to go through any construction. I'm not going to take you to my sewing machine and show you any specific nuanced portion of this pattern because there really isn't any. And we're going to go through that, okay? So first and foremost, hopefully the lighting will work in here too. I want to show you the cover of the pattern. Here it is. It is the Roscoe dress. This is the short dress version. And this pattern, I'm going to show you the back so you can see the line drawings. This pattern has 3 different views. View A is the blouse. View B is the short dress, which is what the model was wearing on the front. And it has a ruffle. View C is, I'm going to pull this back a little bit, is the longer dress and also has a longer, wider ruffle, okay? So there's 3 different options for this garment and you can customize it to be whatever you'd like. And I'll take you through what I did for mine as well. But I am wearing our Batik Rayon. So the fabric of choice for this garment has to be quite obvious, drapey, flowy, comfortable. And so the fabric that's listed on the back is rayon challis. It is lightweight linen, gauze, things of that weight. And so I, of course, I'm showcasing our SewBatik Batik Rayon. And this is the Gardenista Vine motif in the shade of ocean teal. And I really love it. I strayed from my blue and hopefully you think it looks okay, but this is a great color and I just love it a lot. So from a difficulty perspective, this pattern on their scale of their pattern is a 2 dots out of 5, and I would agree with that. There really isn't anything difficult. There isn't a skill that you'd have to learn in order to make this garment if you have been sewing for a little while. If you haven't sewn a thing, let's talk about that. This garment, and I'll show you kind of the construction basics from what I'm wearing. There is a gathered, very gathered round neckline with a V opening. And there's ties, and you can leave the ties open and not tied, or you can tie them. I like the look of it tied, and so that's what I did with mine. The sleeve is a Raglan sleeve, so we have a beautiful flowy, and it adds to the volume of the fabric too. It's not inset, so it gives it that extra kind of loose feel. So it's a Raglan sleeve, which is so simple to add to the front and the back pieces of this garment. And there's a simple, and again, very gathered cuff with a simple facing. And of course, it is a loose fitting garment with or without a ruffle. And mine has a ruffle, and I absolutely love the ruffle. I don't have a single garment with a ruffle, and so that's why I really wanted to make this garment and make it my own. So here's what we're going to talk about first. So basically, let me summarize. The construction is not difficult. It is straight straight seams, whether or not you use your sewing machine or a serger. It is a lot of gathering. There are various techniques to how to speed up the gathering of a neckline or a cuff or a ruffle using, and maybe I'll do a video on that. I really highly recommend using invisible elastic to make your gathering so much simpler. And it's a technique I learned a long time ago. I don't know where I learned it from, but instead of sewing your 2 lines of basting stitch and pulling threads, which does take a little bit of time, can be done. That's how I did the collar before I realized, go get your elastic and make this faster. But I did use clear elastic to make the gathering and use the gathering so that then I could sew it very easily to the facing of my cuff. And I did the same thing with the ruffle on the garment. But I'll do a different video on that little technique. It's very simple to do. And there's a lot of YouTube videos out there anyway. So if you were to Google gathering with clear elastic, you'll get the best techniques imaginable and you'll never gather with thread pulls again. So that is the only other thing that I probably, if I was going to stitch this up with you and sew this with you, that's the only other thing that would be different from what the pattern includes as their instructions for how to do gathering, okay? But the instruction booklet is fantastic, very simple to follow. Illustrations are beautifully done, as are all of the True Bias patterns. I really, really love their patterns, okay? Now, let's talk about sizing. And I also want to spend a little bit of time, actually I want to spend most of my time on sizing. One of the things I look for when I look for a new pattern, as a fabric company, SewBatik, I always look for patterns, and it's quite obvious, that showcase one of our fabric collections, whether it be rayon, linen, knit, whatever it happens to be. And this one was no exception. I really wanted to show our rayon because of its fluidity. And this pattern just caught my eye because it's a pattern that I believe a lot of you customers, a lot of our followers will enjoy simply because it's loose fitting. It is modern and it's not difficult to make at all. And I just think you're going to love it. So that's one of the reasons why I went for this pattern. Now, what I always do is I go to Google, I go to YouTube, and I do a little bit of searching. Do people love the pattern? Are there great images of how the garment looks? Are there negative reviews? What do people think about this particular pattern? I really do take that into consideration because I'm not going to spend time on something if it really doesn't fit with where we're headed. And I just, so here's the thing. I got good reviews, beautiful pictures of garments made with this pattern and various fabric substrates, beautiful. And then there were some that were negative, mainly sizing. Mainly they were considered too big. The garment was just too overpowering, too much fullness were some of the comments. So we're going to spend some time today talking about size, and that my true belief in any garment pattern is that they all fit. They'll all fit. It's just which size are we working with and how are we going to adjust it? So I truly believe in that. So let's talk about this garment. Okay. Now, as with most patterns, I'm just going to say something that doesn't mean anything, which is these are sizes 0 to 18. Those are the numbers, 0 to 18. And when you take a look at the body measurements of this pattern, we start with a 0, which is a bust of a 32. And the 18 is a bust of 44 and a half. So we've got a really good range there of bust sizes. And I think with this particular garment, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the waist nor the hip, because this is so fluid that if you get your bust right, everything else is going to fit, okay? It will. So what I then do is I jump to finished garment measurements. And this one has it written on the back of the pattern jacket, which is fantastic. So here we go. So the finished garment measurements, and this is where we need to spend our time on this particular pattern. And this will make the world of difference on sewing up this garment. For a 0, the bust measurements of your finished garment is 44 inches. Okay, now we should just stop right there. Body measurement 32, finished measurement 44. That's 12 inches of ease. That's 12 inches of ease. So right then and there, you should stop and say to yourself, oh my goodness, that's a lot of fabric. It is a lot of fabric. So I'm going to jump to an 18 so that you can see the ranges here, okay? An 18, as you would call, the bust is 44 and a half, and the finished measurement is 56 and a half. So we've got 12 inches of ease all the way through this garment, regardless of the size you choose. So this is one of these patterns where I strongly recommend that you make 2 decisions. How much ease do I like? Knowing that this is a very, very flowy garment. How much ease do I really, really like? Where's my touch point? Is it my bust? What's my shape? Is it my bust or is it my hips? Where do I sit here? That decision you have to make on your own. How much ease do you like around you, knowing it's a drapey and intended to be a very loose fitting garment? My choice is the number 8. I like 8 inches. It's not snug, it's just 8 inches. And that's just because I've learned through the years of making things that that's how much I like when I'm dealing with a loose fitting garment of this style. And my touch point is the bust. So that is where I need to worry about my ease, knowing that this is flowy. Okay, so if I were to look at my bust size, which is 39 inches, I'm a straight 12, which is normal for me. If I go buy something at a store, I'm going to look for a 12 or a 14. Okay, so when we're working with our own patterns at home, we got to get over this size thing. We got to stop thinking about size. We got to only look at measurements. So what I want you to look at, again, know your ease. Mine is 8 inches. Okay. So if I take 8 inches and I add that to my bust, I've got 47 inches. So if I have 46, 47 inches of a finished garment at my bust, what size do I need to make? Okay, so let's go back to my pattern. A size 4 is 46 inches. A size 6 is 47 inches. So I've decided that, and this is what I made a size 6. So for just a brief moment, I danced around my sewing room and thought, I am making a 6. Ooh. I was excited. But again, listen to me. Forget about the number. The number means nothing. It just was a moment of exhilaration. So, but I knew I was going to make the 6 because I wanted 8 inches of ease. I don't want 12 inches of ease. I just don't. It's too much. And so in my head, I was thinking about all of the reviews that said, too big, too big, too big, too big. I'm not making it again. Too big. Well, you're going to make it again because it's worth it. So let's talk about what I did. I started with my 6 and I followed the cutting instructions, traced my pattern for a 6. I was a little bit worried about the neckline because I was thinking, oh, maybe it's going to be too tiny, because it does look like this needs to be kind of an open neckline. But I like how it turned out. I am always going to have this tied. I don't want loose ties anywhere. So that's just going to be me. So I was very, very thrilled with the fact that I was able to start with a 6. Now, the hip I graded to an 8. I don't even know why I did. I did. The 8 hip is you would have a 38 as your hip, and with 12 inches of ease, I was thinking, yeah, I need to make it need to make sure that it's flowy enough. So that's what I did. I wouldn't have needed to do that. There is enough movement in this garment to just make your straight size. Okay. So disregard the grading. So what I then did was, for me, I wanted it shorter. I didn't want the longer short dress. I wanted a tunic because I'm going to wear it with leggings and I'm going to wear it with jeans. It's winter. So that's what I wanted to do. So I shortened the blouse front and back by 2 inches. I should have done 4. So the next time I make this, I'm going to shorten it by 4 inches. Then I added the narrowest ruffle, and I ended up with, throughout this, I'm going to show pictures of myself wearing this garment, but it is a little bit long, so I do want to make it shorter, but it is my tunic length, and I love the look, and it turned out beautiful for me. The other thing that I did is, and take this into consideration, now, hopefully I'm not bouncing around too much, but this was written for somebody who's 5'5", with a cup size C. So take that into consideration too. But I'm 5'7", and so I was thinking my additional height wouldn't be so bad with my 2 inches that I was shortening in the top. So I did give that some consideration as well. My other issue is my sleeve. I shouldn't call it an issue. I lengthened my sleeve 3 inches because I wanted it to sit more around my wrist. And I probably could have lengthened it even more. But it turned out nice. So just know that the sleeve itself it's longer than a 3/4 length sleeve, but shorter than, of course, something that's going to sit by your wrist if you consider that I added 3 inches to this. So those were the adjustments that I made for my garment. And I have to honestly tell you, I love it. So I don't know what some of the negative comments or and I shouldn't call them negative comments, but just the fit was just too much fabric. So do me this, pull this pattern back out, find that next fabric. We recommend Batik Rayon. And really work your pattern pieces off the finished measurements of the chest and your hip, okay? And make the length that you really enjoy for yourself. But I think that if your goal is to get your ease to the right perspective, which is mostly what I talk about on so many of my pattern reviews that I do, is if you're familiar with our videos, you'll know that I really focus a lot on the finished measurements because that is truly how it fits your body. And we don't want to make something because it's a 12. We want to make it to fit. And so let's look at those finished measurements and understand your ease. And the one thing too that I think we all should do is always know in our closets, what's your favorite store-bought, ready-made garment? How does it fit you? What does it measure at your chest, your waist, and your hip? What are those measurements? Let's write those down. Let's keep those next to us. And know that when you pick up a pattern like this, that is so obviously loose-fitting and fluid, that we take a look at those finished measurements, we match them up, and we're confident knowing that we can make this garment in the right size to fit us because we know it will work. So those are just my thoughts that hopefully will get you to pull this pattern back out. If you don't have this pattern, you need it. It is just, and if you like things that are fluid, if you like to sit at the Thanksgiving table and not worry so much about how much you're eating, No one will know. But anyway, I just think this is fantastic. I really love this garment. The last thing I want to share with you is the yardage. Okay, because there's a couple of notes on here that are important as well. For 45-inch wide fabric, it gives you the yardages for 45-inch wide and 54-inch wide fabric. Our Batik Rayon is 45, so I'm just going to talk to you about the experience of this garment for me. So a blouse for the smallest size recommended for this pattern is about 2 1/4 to 2.5 yards of fabric. It is very fluid. You're going to use a little bit of fabric. Okay, for a long dress, it will start at about 3 1/4 yards, which is a typical dress because you're dealing with a length of a garment. Okay, now it says all the way up to the size 14. Now remember, this goes to an 18. This, and I am referencing numbers just for ease of reference here. But for 45-inch wide fabric, they say that it's not suitable if you're making a size 16 and an 18. I don't know where that comes from. And here's my answer to that. First of all, my answer to that is you can make anything out of 45-inch wide fabric. Well, I'll take that back a minute. This garment can be made for a 16 and an 18 out of 45-inch wide fabric very easily. The garment itself is on the fold. The front and the backs are on the fold. And so I laid out the pattern pieces for a 16 and an 18 on the fold. They fit perfectly fine on 45-inch wide fabric. Nothing extends past the folded pattern piece. Nothing. Your sleeves fit, your ties fit, it fits. It's the ruffle. Now, I didn't go to their website to see what their notes were on this. It just says it's not suitable. But when it comes to a ruffle, and I'll just speak specifically about our rayon fabric, just piece it. Instead of the ruffle itself is 2 pieces. It is on the fold and it is straight of grain. And so you're cutting a front piece and a back piece, sewing them at the sides, and then you're ruffling it, gathering it up, and then you're stitching it to the hem of the blouse. Yes, in a perfect world, that would be just 2 pieces of fabric. And so I believe this is why they say you can't cut it out of 45-inch wide fabric. But there is nothing to say that you can't cut a 1/3 piece of your ruffle and sew it together. Don't put your seams on the side seams. In a batik like this, you are never going to see a seam. You're never going to see the seam. It's a ruffle. So piece 2 1/2 or 3, however full you want your ruffle to be, piece it together, offset it, and add it to the hem of your blouse. So I believe that anybody from the smallest of this pattern to the largest of this pattern can make this out of 45-inch wide fabric. So don't let that stop you in any way, shape, or form. But you will need probably, let me think, you're going to need 4. If a 14 dress is 3 1/2 yards of fabric, I believe that an 18 will be 4 yards of fabric to give yourself that extra ruffle cut. Okay, so just 4 yards of fabric, no more than that. And so that's the last thing I want to say about this particular pattern is the yardage. So I think lesson learned for me is I like a ruffle. I like the fluidity of this garment. I think that it's all about understanding the finished measurements and how that fits to you and what your comfortable ease is on your garment. And you are going to love making this pattern. So if you have the pattern, pull it back out, buy yourself some beautiful Batik Rayon and make yourself another Roscoe blouse and dress. If you don't have it, definitely pick it up and add it to your collection and make something super, super fun for this holiday season. So I'm going to add a fashion duo to our website so we can merge our pattern and our fabric and our interfacing and give you a really good price deal. And you will enjoy. So have a fantastic day. and enjoy your next sewing experience with this Roscoe blouse and dress pattern.